Okay, hi everyone, welcome back. In today's update, we are going to check out Ondo's price chart and see what is happening in the short term, and maybe we are starting to identify some optimistic signs, but at the same time, I'm going to tell you why maybe you need to be a little bit more patient until I would say generally the next 45 days, and there's actually like a very important reason for that. Now, before we get into all that good stuff, at first, as per usual, we are going to talk about some fundamentals. And as you can see, recently we got a big update in Ondo, and I think this is like a real infrastructure milestone with the introduction of Ondo Bridge, because sure, it doesn't really introduce like a new token or maybe a new asset. However, I do think this update actually changes how Ondo's RWA actually works across crypto space. And with this launch of the Ondo Bridge, the future I think is going to be quite interesting, because I think because of this update only, we are going to see more and more adoption again in the future. Now, before we explain what is going on in here, let me give you a couple of points. Before this update, if you bought a tokenized stocks or ETF through Ondo or Ethereum, okay, it basically lived there. Meaning what? You see, at that point, you wouldn't really be able to easily, at least, move your tokens into another chain where fees, for example, are going to be lower, or maybe where different applications existed. Now, with this update, the introduction of Ondo Bridge, okay, everything I think is going to change, because this update is essentially allowing more than 100 tokenized stocks and ETFs to move between Ethereum and BNB chain with full one-to-one asset backing. And Ondo didn't build this alone. No, they actually partnered with LayerZero, which is already widely used for cross-chain messaging. So the result, quite simple. Ondo's tokenized stocks now behave a whole lot more like normal crypto assets, and they are going to be, from this point moving forward, portable, number two, flexible, number three, usable across multiple networks, which is awesome. And I think this is actually really important, because it's really about, if you pay attention to it, distribution, not necessarily just the technology itself. You see, Ethereum at the moment mainly is attracting institutional and high value users, while at the same time BNB chain has a very large retail user base with millions and millions of daily active users. And by connecting these two ecosystems together with Ondo Bridge, then okay, Ondo is essentially trying to give global retail users access to United States stocks and ETFs without really needing a traditional brokerage account. And at the same time, by using LayerZero, Ondo made their assets easy to integrate, because more than 2,600 wallets and applications already are connected to LayerZero, and these are actually able to support, from this point moving forward, Ondo assets with minimal effort, and that is going to remove like a huge adoption barrier for us. So again, this is a very important point, and I do believe that because of this, we are going to attract a whole lot of adoption in the future. Now, another very important key point in here to consider is the scalability part. You see, as opposed to building a separate bridge for every single asset on every single chain, Ondo now uses a single framework, meaning they are able to deploy all of their tokenized stocks and ETFs to new EVM chain in literally weeks, not necessarily months, and that is going to hopefully open the doors for fast expansion to chains like, I don't know, maybe Arbitrum, Base, or others with strong DeFi activity. Now, in terms of future possible effects, I think this infrastructure actually unlocks more advanced use cases, because tokenized stocks, I do think they are ultimately going to be used as collateral across many chains, enabling cross-chain DeFi strategies that don't really exist at the moment. And also, this update moves the market, I would say, quite closer to like a global 24/7 stock system where users can hold and trade equities regardless of location or time, which is really the whole point of the crypto space. Essentially, we are talking about making every single thing accessible to the whole world, which is awesome. Now, from a mid to long term view, I believe this is actually quite bullish for Ondo for three very important reasons. First, has to come down to liquidity, because assets that are moving freely across chains, they do actually attract deeper liquidity, making it quite harder for competitors to catch up. Second important reason has to come down to growth, because Ondo Global Markets already has over, I think it was the last time that we talked about it, 350 million in TVL. Right now, I think it's a little bit more than that. And expanding the new chains, I do think is going to give access to large pools of capital sitting idle, which, let's be honest, is not necessarily efficient. Now, the final reason I think comes down to positioning, because this is confirming that Ondo is not really just issuing assets. No, it is building infrastructure for us, and infrastructure projects do tend to capture more value over a longer period of time. Again, we are not talking about the short-term price action, okay? In short term, I don't really believe that this is going to do a whole lot for us and send the price up. I don't really believe that. And especially, I would say maybe even we are going to witness some decent pullbacks in Ondo in short term, and I'm going to tell you in a bit why. But overall, in the mid to long term, I think these are the things that we need to pay full attention to. And as long as fundamental wise we are on the right track, I think we can pretty much, I would say, safely assume that the price of the token is going to appreciate over a longer period of time. Now, when it comes to short-term price action, okay, if you remember, the last time that we talked about Ondo, we were somewhere around these areas, and the idea was that maybe from this point our move down is going to continue a little bit in order to visit the lower band of this region, about, let's say, 39 cents area. And then we said, in an ideal scenario, what we want to see is a bounce back and not necessarily a break of this important level. Now, again, if you are a new viewer, you should know this level is not actually from H1 or H4 timeframe. No, this is from weekly and daily timeframe at the same time. And you might ask, well, okay, why is this important? Because if you want to say this is broken, you need to actually go on weekly chart, see a candle close under here, then pull back, then a continuation of the move down in order to take this low. And at that point, fair enough, this level is broken. So what is it that I'm trying to tell you? Look, the fact that in like very short term in Ondo, for like a brief period of time, maybe 4 or 5 hours, we went under this level, it doesn't really mean that we have broken it, okay? It's very important to understand that. Now, why did I say at the beginning of the video, maybe we are starting to see some optimistic signs? Because if you want to argue that we're going to have our final low around this region, let's say this is like a key support, then okay, off of the lowest low, Elliott's wave wise, you have to be able to find 5 wave on the upside. This specific scenario is called an impulse. Rules for us are, we should not have overlapping of the waves between wave 2 and 4, and in any kind of 5 wave, our wave 3 should not be the smallest wave. And in terms of the sub waves, we're going to have 5 wave up into wave 1, 3, and 5. And for our corrections, we can consider different scenarios. Let's say, sure, ABC for our wave 2, and maybe a WXY for our wave 4. Now, after completing a 5 wave, if you want to be bullish, right in here, it's very important to note that it's not necessarily a buy opportunity. Why? Because even according to the most bullish case, after completing an impulse up off of the lowest low, what are we going to have? You know it, we're going to have a bit of a pullback down. And if in this phase we identify the proper subwaves, and this move down is going to have certain characteristics of a corrective movement, fair enough, at that point we can be bullish in Ondo. Now, having said all that, let's go on the live chart, and maybe to show you what is going on a little bit better, maybe it's best to go on 15-minute time frame. Okay, so what is going on in here? I do think that probably this is a 1, 2, wave 3, 2 about this point, correction for 4, another move up into wave 5. This is most likely, I would say, a correction down. It can be an ABC or maybe like a WXY in form of a double zigzag. So here's the deal. I do think this move up in the short term in Ondo can continue a little bit more, but just to confirm that we are going to witness another move up in Ondo, I would like to suggest to be a little bit more patient and see, are we going to break this short term? I would say, yeah, okay, fair enough. I guess it's fair to say resistance area. Why is this important for us? Because, pay attention, this can act as the potential next line for this beautiful head and shoulder structure. Now, why did I say potential neckline? Because this head and shoulder at the moment is not really confirmed yet. You need to be a bit patient and see, are we going to go above the neckline, do a pullback, and then get a continuation of the move up or not? If we do this, the moments that we take this important high, at that point, you can argue, yeah, you know what, this head and shoulder is actually going to work and it is going to send us up to where the question is. Let's just measure our targets. I would say to somewhere around maybe 45 cents region, right around these areas, meaning we can have something like a 10% move on the upside. At that point, on a higher degree, you should pay full attention to the next move, because that is, in my view, going to tell you the real story. Why is that? Because let's assume, okay, we are going to get a break of the neckline and confirm our head and shoulder and go up in form of, in an ideal scenario, a 5. At that point, if you want to go according to the most bullish case, well, okay, on a higher degree, what do you have? 1, 2, 3, and where is your wave 4 and 5? You're not at least going to have it then. That's why I'm telling you, look, if we get a move up in Ondo, pay attention to the move after it. If we get something like this, consolidation for another move up into wave 5, it can definitely be an optimistic sign. Having said that though, right in here, as we said earlier, it's not really a long opportunity. Just be a bit patient, because odds are in this area we are going to witness a bit of a move on the downside. Ultimately, if we are not going to get a break of this important neckline, then okay, from here you can actually expect a bit of a continuation of our move down. And right now, at least, this isn't really going to be my primary case. My primary scenario does suggest maybe we are going to witness a bit of a move up in Ondo, but whether that's like a fantastic sign indicating the bottom is in or not, I guess right now that can be all for debate. Now, why is it that one way or the other I do believe on maybe some moves on the downside in Ondo? Because according to the most bullish case, this is 5 wave up, what's next? A move down. And if the bearish count is in play in here, then okay, what are we going to have next? A continuation of the move down from the current point. Because you see, I think it is in about 25-27 days. Where was it? There we go, right in here. According to Ondo's vesting schedule, in, where is it? Excuse me. Okay, there we go. In January 18th, in about 27 days, we are actually having major token unlocks, about 1.94 billion Ondo tokens. So again, this may actually cause a bit of a move on the downside in Ondo. Since the last time that we saw a token unlock like this, it was January of this year, and that one also caused a bit of a move on the downside. So again, in Ondo, if you are bullish fundamental wise, may I suggest just buy the dips by a small amount, okay? Do not buy under any kind of circumstances all at once, because odds are you are going to lose a decent amount of money. Just do some DCA, get your average purchase down, and having said that, keep this in your mind that in about 25 days, we are going to have major token unlocks, and that could potentially also cause a bit of a move on the downside. I would say at least in the short term. So overall, in Ondo, we are starting to see some optimistic signs, but just to confirm that, let's be a bit patient. Let's see, are we going to get a break of this level about, let's say, 40 cents or not? And if we break it, okay, we can at that point expect about a 10% move up, but that move is not necessarily important. What really matters is the shape of our move and what are we going to do after it. In an ideal scenario, you want to see a move up, consolidation, followed by another move up, which is going to be an awesome sign, but then you want to see a bit of a move on the downside. And I hope I explained everything well and you understood what is going on in Ondo's chart. And until the next update, I hope you have a wonderful time. Goodbye.